This quality program is presented by the Professional Education Institute, an organization dedicated to helping make the most of every opportunity for you and your family.
Hi, I'm Carleton Sheets, and before we get into this video program, I want to make you aware of a very special opportunity to expand your money-making resource library at great savings to you. I'll be telling you about that at the end of this tape, so please stay with me throughout the entire presentation. It'll be well worth your while.
Okay, I own this one, I'm closing on that one today. I own that one, and this one right over here.
These are all our properties listed.
You have shown us how we can make money, put it directly in our pocket.
And over here, of course, I have a map of the city with all of my properties listed on the map.
Kathy, what has real estate investing done for your net worth?
Well, I have all of my properties listed here, and here is my total net worth today, $491,203.
Almost $500,000 in a year and a half.
That's right, absolutely.
How about spendable cash flow?
Well, right now, I just figured it up the other day, and I'm making $69,336 a year.
I've got real estate agents coming to me asking me, how am I doing this? You know, I'm like, well, order the course and you'll find out how I'm doing this.
I had a ridiculously low income, had horrendous credit rating, and I did it.
We got your course. Your course gave us a plan.
My first purchase, I made $52,000.
We're up to $160,000 net worth, and all of that really occurred in about an 8-month period.
In 2 years, our net worth has gone from zip to $600,000.
I just looked at my wife and I said, "This is too easy, honey. How come everyone's not doing this?"
I have profited in the neighborhood of $340,000 by using your course.
And now have a net worth of approximately $410,000.
In the last 7 months, I have made my net worth over $500,000.
We've got 23 units, a net worth of over $600,000, and I've never put one penny of my own money in any of it.
Our net worth is over $838,000.
I have a cash flow now of $4,500 a month, and I have a net worth of close to $1 million.
I'm a little over $2 million net.
You should now know that you possess the most complete, up-to-date, and easiest to follow real estate home study course in America. This course will do many things for you. It'll teach you how to buy your first home, even if you've got little or no money in the bank, and even if you have little or no credit, or even bad credit. If you already own a home, it'll show you how you can buy a bigger or a better one, and probably for less than the monthly payments on your present home, and that's exciting. It'll also teach you how to invest in real estate for profit, just as I've been doing for over 25 years, so that you too can generate a substantial, spendable monthly income, as well as earn large lump sum amounts in certain transactions. All of this in addition to what you now make at your current job. Extra spendable cash. Let me take a moment to tell you what we're going to do in this particular video. This is the start of your journey. I'm going to show you how I buy property, and it's the same way you'll do it too. I'll show you how I find properties, often starting with the daily newspaper. I'll show you how to read ads to spot the good deals. You'll listen in as I make some calls and ask questions about properties. We'll go out and take a look at a few properties, evaluate the financial information, and then you'll learn how the transaction actually turned out. Now, I don't want you to try to get started after simply watching this video. This is a crucial starting point, but I can't stress it strongly enough. You must go through the entire course. Only then will you be qualified to do exactly as I'll do here. The thrust of this course is not only to show you ways to creatively buy properties, but also to prevent you from making some of the costly mistakes that I made early in my investing career. Now, at the end of this video, I'll take a few minutes to show you the especially important areas of the course. This is an incredibly exciting journey you're embarking on. Before we go any further, however, I want to stop to answer a question that I'm often asked, and I'll answer it with the help of a few of my students. Some people say that they purchase my course so that they can get rich, and get rich quick. Can you really do that? Well, it's unrealistic to expect to make a huge sum of money overnight. But what can you expect? Can you expect to achieve your goals regarding the dream home you've always wanted? Absolutely. And depending upon the kind of house you want, I'm talking about doing it in a matter of months.
My name is Shannon. This is my new house. This is my daughter Danielle and Juliet. I am a stay-at-home mom. I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about dealing with brokers, and with this course, I learned these steps. 5 weeks after I had purchased this course, I was able to get this home with absolutely no money down, and at the close of escrow, I actually got money back. Thank you so much, Carleton. Thank you for improving my life. Thank you for giving me a hope for the future.
I was able to move Janet and Jacqueline into a new $250,000 home in Richmond, and did it without any cash. I was able 60 days later to give Janet a new Mercedes Benz for our 20th wedding anniversary.
I know a lot of couples probably spend years saving to buy their first home, and we were married just a few months, and we were out of our apartment, and that's fantastic.
How many 21 and 22-year-old couples around the country own their own home? If there are a lot of lease options in the newspaper, it would show you that in your area that properties are not moving well, and it truly is a buyer's market. Here's another one, rent to buy special. An address, nice, large, 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom house with additional 1,500 square foot semi-finished area. Could be a duplex or triplex. Very interesting. We could make 2 or even 3 residential units out of the property, it's saying. By the way, you would want to make sure that that was zoned to do that, and I discussed that in my course as well, how to make that determination. Low down payment, $340 a month, below appraisal. This has got everything going for it. Low down payment, indication of seller flexibility, a small monthly payment, below appraised value, and also a willingness to rent with an option to buy. Another one that I'll certainly call. Rent to own, here's another one. A certain township, large lot, 3-bedroom, some repairs needed in exchange for rent. When a seller tells you that you can use your own skills or your own labor in making repairs on the property in lieu of a down payment, that's certainly an indication of a flexible seller. Owner motivated, must sell. House for sale in a certain area, 2-story, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, den, laundry room, living dining area, kitchen, 2-car garage, gas heat, corner lot, creek view, drapes and blinds, 1.5 miles to the interstate, ready to move in, make offer, might consider creative financing, or could help on down payment. That certainly is a flexible seller. Now, before we actually start making calls, I want to interrupt myself to remind you that investing in real estate creatively is a numbers game. You've got to make lots of calls, look at lots of properties, and make lots of offers. You may make 25 calls to pre-qualify sellers in their properties in order to look at 4 or 5 properties, in order to make 2 or 3 offers, in order to buy one. So it's very important to make the best use of your time and thoroughly pre-qualify or screen properties and sellers before actually going out and seeing properties. Now, how do we pre-qualify a seller or a property? Well, I cover this thoroughly in Chapter 7 of your course, but I want to share with you now a very important tool contained in that chapter. It's my list of specific questions to ask sellers over the phone. I've developed these 13 questions over many years on the phone buying properties. Again, you'll find this list in Chapter 7. I'd like to briefly go through these questions with you now and go through some of the kinds of information you can hope to generate. Okay, now let's look at question 1. Starts out, my name is blank, may I ask your name? It is so important to establish rapport early on with a seller. Let's assume that the seller says, my name is Don. Then you'd proceed to question number 2. Don, please tell me about your home or property. The basic purpose of this question, in addition to generating information, is to continue to establish rapport with the seller and to make the seller comfortable. Obviously, you're asking the seller a question that the seller knows the answer to. Tell me about your home or property. Now, some of the sub-questions that you can ask under that are, what is the size and square footage of the property? What is the layout? What is the lot size? Do you have a garage? How many rooms does your home have? How many full or half baths does it have? Now, incidentally, if any of this information appeared in a newspaper ad, you would not obviously ask that same question of the seller at this time. Are there any features that you consider to be special? For example, a fence or big trees or even a desirable location. What furniture or appliances are included with this property, Don, you might say. All of this, questions that they know the answers to. The third question is, Don, what price are you asking for the property? And now if that information appeared in the newspaper, what you might say is, Don, I see you're asking $100,000 for the property. Tell me, how did you arrive at that price? Question number 4. Tell me about your existing financing. Now, don't be surprised if some sellers consider that question intrusive or unimportant. In fact, many sellers will not know the answer to that question, but nonetheless, I would ask it, including what existing mortgages are on the property, who is the lender, what are the terms, the interest rate, the monthly payments, is it assumable? Do you mind me asking, are you current on all of your payments? Now, some sellers will say, well, I only know that the mortgage is not assumable, and therefore all of these questions are not important. What you might respond with would be, Don, even though it's not assumable, could you tell me the approximate amount of the balance of the mortgage? I think that would help me in arriving at a way that I could buy your property. Even if it's not assumable, try to get the existing mortgage amount. Number 5, Don, are you willing to assist in the financing? Now, don't be surprised if a seller responds in the negative here, because most of them will. But what you might follow up with, even though they say no, is, do you need cash at closing? How much? Could the down payment be spread out over a period of time? It's kind of interesting. If you ask a seller if they'll assist in the financing, almost all of them will say no. And yet if you ask them if the down payment could be spread out over a period of time, most of them will respond by saying, what period of time did you have in mind? Obviously, when you're trying to spread the down payment out over a period of time, you're asking the seller to assist in the financing, aren't you? They don't take it the same way, though. Question number 6. Don, how long has your property been on the market? Why is that question important? If it's been on the market for a considerable length of time, it might be indicative of the fact that the seller would be more flexible in the price or terms that he or she would sell for. Question number 7, have you owned the property long? This would be an attempt to find out if the property had experienced a great amount of appreciation due to inflation since they bought the property. Also a way to learn indirectly if the mortgage amount had been reduced during the period of their ownership. Question number 8. Don, it sounds like you have a nice home. I'm curious, why are you selling? This will give you some idea of the seller flexibility as well. For example, well, I've already bought another property would indicate that there might be a financial hardship for the seller, or my company has transferred me out of town and I'm due to leave a week from tomorrow. Question number 9, and this is a very powerful question. What do you like most about your property? Followed up with, after you get an answer, what do you like least about your property? Question number 10, are there any renters in the neighborhood? And if the seller responds in the affirmative, you might say, do you have any idea what they're paying in rent? Also ask them what you think the rent would be for the property that they own. And I will say parenthetically here that many sellers are not aware of rent rates and would almost always give you a rent rate lower than the true market value rent. Question number 11, would you consider leasing your property with an option to buy? Now, most sellers really don't understand options, so you may have to do a little bit of explaining here. That's why I go into lease options in such great detail in my course. A very powerful way to buy property. Question number 12. Quite honestly, you might say, I'm a real estate investor. Now let me ask you, Don, if I were able to buy your property and pay cash for it and close, say, within a week, what is the very lowest price that you'd consider accepting? The nice thing about that question is, even if you have absolutely no cash, 2 things, it plants a seed in the seller's mind that you do have cash, and secondly, it will probably result in your hearing from the seller the very lowest price that the seller will take. The last question has to do with asking a broker specific questions if one is involved. For example, Mr. Broker, Ms. Broker, do you own any investment property yourself? It's important to know. Have you ever owned any? What you're trying to do here is to work where possible with brokers who either own or have owned investment property. Does your firm manage properties? If I would buy this property, you might ask, would you consider managing it for me? And what would your rate be? What percentage of the rental income would you charge? What is the vacancy rate in the area, you might say to a broker? Based on your background and experience as a management person, you would say to the broker, is the rent being charged for this property above market or below market? And also, if the property is not now rented, what rent do you think would be generated from the property? Also, you would ask the broker, Do you have any other good investment properties that you think would represent a good investment for me? Either ones that are physically distressed or ones where the seller is highly motivated or flexible. Another question to ask the broker, once you get to know the broker, is, by the way, would you consider accepting all or a portion of your commission in the form of a note? Now, I would ask that question before you begin serious negotiations on a property, because once it looks to the broker like you're going to buy the property, then they will become more and more inflexible about taking some of their commission in the form of a note. I can't tell you how important these questions are in pre-qualifying sellers so you don't waste a lot of time going out to visit properties where you have no interest in seeing the property. And secondly, you'll be amazed at the amount of information that can be generated by asking these 12 questions of a seller and the one question of a broker. Now, you may wonder when you're going to use the cash flow analysis form that I give to you in Chapter 9, and I go into great detail about this form. This will actually be used when you visit the property and are talking directly to the seller or getting the same information from a broker if one is involved. Now, the cash flow analysis form allows you to list the income from the property, that is, what the property is currently rented for, or if you're going to rent it, what the current market value rent is, along with all of the expenses of the property. The whole purpose of the cash flow analysis form is to determine how much cash flow you have each month to put in your pocket, as well as to service any debt on the property. This cash flow analysis form, along with the creative finance techniques that I give you in my course, will allow you to buy the property creatively in a way perhaps even allowing you to pay the actual asking price of the seller. Now, let's go ahead and make a few telephone calls and start talking with some sellers. Okay, let's make the first call. And by the way, in order to protect the anonymity of the people that I'm talking to, if there should be any address given or their last name or even the part of town or city that they live in, that will be removed from the tape. The first call.
Hello, this is Rick. We're unable to take your call right now, but if you'll leave your name, phone number, and a message, we'll return your call as soon as possible. Thanks for calling.
I'm going to cut off the call, but obviously, had you been calling as an investor, you would have left your name. Incidentally, as you look at the newspaper ads, there are two properties listed in two separate ads, both with the same telephone number, and that's the only part of the ad that would identify them as being run by the same company. Obviously, you would leave your name and telephone number, and you'd say, I'm very interested in your home on so-and-so that you advertise as a rent-to-buy special. And believe me, if you're telling them you're interested in buying their property, they'll get back to you quickly. Okay, let's go on to another one. This is a rent-to-own. The name of the area is given, 3-bedroom, large lot, some repairs needed in exchange for rent. Sounds like a good one. Yes, is Tony in, please?
No, he's not right now. You need information on the house?
Yes, sir, I do. My name is Carleton, by the way. May I ask your name?
BJ?
Hey, BJ. Tell me a little bit.
The only thing I can do right now, Mr. Carleton, is take your name and number and then have someone give you a call back.
Okay, let me do this. I'm calling from a number where I cannot be reached. When do you think Tony might be in?
I have no idea.
During the day, or is this a phone that would number that would reach him in the evening as well?
I would say probably during the day.
Okay, I'm going to be making some more calls. I'll give him a ring again tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
By the way, it'll happen sometimes. You'll have 4, 5, 6 calls where it's either busy, no one at home, or an answering machine. You've just got to be patient. The next ad is a very small one run by a real estate office. 8.5% assumption, 3-bedroom ranch, $44,900. Now, there's no real indication there of seller flexibility, except there is an indication in the ad that the real estate office is aware that many people are not able to obtain mortgages today. Their credit's not good enough, or the credit policies of most banks are tight. So let's call it. Hello, I'm calling about the ad in the paper for an 8.5% assumption on a 3-bedroom ranch.
All right, the person you need to speak to isn't here at the moment. Can I take your name and number and have that person call you back?
Is this a real estate office?
Yes, it is.
And the person that I need to talk to is whom?
Jerry or Beverly?
Jerry or Beverly? Okay. Let me do this. I'm not going to be at this number very long, so the best thing for me to do would be to call them back, and I will ask for them by name.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Many times in a real estate office, only the listing agent will give information about the property, and that's the situation here. So I'm making a note to call those individuals back at a different time. The next ad is another 3-bedroom ranch. It gives a street address, and it says immediate possession. Frequently, when you see those words, move in right away or immediate possession, property empty, you know that the seller probably is very, very flexible because they're making 2 mortgage payments potentially, or certainly a mortgage payment and a rental payment. Let's call. Well, looks like we got another one that's not going to respond. I'll certainly mark that, call again, and we'll do that. The next property is $550 a month, rent to buy, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Let's call this one. Hello, is Mike there, please?
Speaking.
Mike, my name is Carleton, and I'm calling about your ads in the newspaper. One, a $550 a month rent to own, and the other one, a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, $600 a month rent to own.
Yeah, I've gotten rid of both of those.
You sold both of them?
Okay, did, Carl.
Very good. You've got any other ones?
Maybe I can help you find something.
Are you a broker, Mike?
Yes, those happen to be homes that I own.
Oh, you did? Well, good for you for getting rid of them so quickly. Mike, as a broker, are you constantly buying and selling, or do you buy to own for...
Well, I buy to sell, and then I also can sell anything else that's around. Gee.
Yeah. What I'm looking for is something that could be purchased on a lease option, or since you're a real estate investor, you know how important it is to be able to buy property creatively with very little money down.
Sure.
Something that could be bought that way.
Okay.
Anything come to mind?
Mr. Carlson, what are you looking for?
What am I looking for? I'm looking for basic bread and butter properties, 3 bedrooms minimum, properties that would rent for, my own assessment of the marketplace is, Mike, that properties in the $450 to $650 range.
Okay.
Is that about what you're buying?
Yeah, that's about what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Well, I can work on that and find you a bunch of those.
Okay.
But I'm probably a week to 10 days away from that.
All right. Why don't I leave my name and address with you? Okay. Well, Mike, thanks an awful lot for your time. Nice talking with you. Just a comment here. Sometimes you'll call about a property, find that the property is sold, but if you're talking to a real estate investor or a real estate broker, be sure and leave your name and telephone number and address with them, because they may find other properties that would fit your investment profile. This would appear to be one of those cases, and I feel sure that I'll hear from this individual. He mentioned also that he was looking at REO properties, and you'll find when you study my course that that stands for real estate owned by banks, properties that have been taken back at foreclosure. And there are a lot of opportunities for REO properties as well. Okay, we've had some good calls and got some good leads to follow up, and one of the things I've always believed is when you're your own boss, you can make your own hours, so I'm going to hang it up now, and we'll take it up again tomorrow morning in my office. Rent to buy 5-room home, vacant. Let's see what happens here.
Thanks for calling SAC. Please leave your name and phone number, and we will call you back when we return. Thank you.
Another recording. Okay, here's one, price for quick sale. Matter of fact, they had an open house on it a few days ago. Got a storage room, patio, a fenced yard, motivated seller. Let's call and see what happens.
Hello?
Hello, I'm calling about your ad in the paper with the headline, price for quick sale.
Okay.
I wonder if, by the way, my name is Carleton. May I ask your name?
My name's Jack.
Jack? Hi, Jack. Tell me a little bit about the property, if you could. For example, I see it has 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. Is it 2-story or 1-story?
It's a split level.
Uh-huh.
And it's about 12 years old. And all the major things are in good shape. The roof's in good shape. The furnace is in good shape. The landscaping is real nice around it.
Jack, you say here appliances. What appliances are included with the property?
Stove and refrigerator. No dishwasher. But we've got a washer and dryer in there also.
That will be staying?
Right.
Okay, very good. What kind of existing financing on the property is there, or is there any financing?
Well, I've got an existing loan, an FHA loan, that's about $52,000. And that's fully assumable. And the interest rate on that is 9.5%, so that's a pretty good deal. And the mortgage payment on that, the principal and interest, is $450 some. So I think it's about $452. And I'll tell you what, you see in the ad I put motivated seller. This is a good deal, what I'm offering. I had my house appraised about 3 weeks ago by a local broker, and they come out and they look at the neighborhood and they do comparable properties and all that, and they told me that I ought to sell the property for about $78,000, and that's what they thought I should be able to get if I gave it 60 or 90 days or what have you. And I'll tell you, I've got a tenant in there right now, and he's going to be out at the end of next month. And it's real hard to sell a property with a tenant in there through a broker because they want to wait till the tenant is out and all of that. And I'd like to sell this a little quicker and a little easier. And so I've dropped my price down even below what I would get after paying the brokerage commission because I don't want to have the place sit empty for a couple of months. And that's why at $70,000 is really a good deal. When I say 70, 69.9 as I put in the ad.
Jack, let me ask you this. You say the tenant is going to be leaving at the end of the month. That's only about 2.5 weeks away. Do you know whether the tenant would be willing to stay? The reason I ask, I'm an investor, and I'm looking for properties that I can buy that will make some sense to rent out. Would the tenant be willing to stay, or if not, how long did it take you to rent the property initially?
I can't answer for sure, but I think the tenant would. I told the tenant I'm thinking of selling, and so the tenant's aware that they may have to leave, but it has been indicated to me that they're leaving for sure. I'm currently getting $750 a month on my rental.
Jack, it appears that even though you're selling the property below the appraised price, with a $52,000 loan on it, you're still looking at $18,000 in equity. Are you willing to assist in the financing?
I could help you part way. By that I mean I could give you a second mortgage for $10,000 worth of my equity. The other $8,000 though I needed cash.
What are you looking at on terms on the $10,000? What percentage and over what period of time?
Oh, I think 10%. I could go interest only, but I wouldn't go for a real long time, like 10 or 15 years. I think 5, maybe 7 years I would go.
Jack, you obviously are a real estate investor, as I am, and as you know, when you buy property, you like to buy it with as little down as possible. About the other $8,000, is there anything that you might, could that be spread out over a period of time, for example?
How long did you have in mind?
Oh, maybe 48 to 60 months.
I don't think so. What was your name?
My name is Carleton, Jack.
I don't have to have the money right now. Obviously, that I'm renting it, I can keep renting it if need be, if I don't sell it. But I would say this: I would consider a no money down deal from your point of view. I see where you're coming from. I would consider that, but not at 69.9.
What would you be looking at then?
I would say a minimum of 72,000, and I would also add this, that I still could leave 10,000 in the property for 5 to 7 years, but the other 10,000 I would want sooner than that. 3 years I could go, maybe 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And at the same interest rate?
I think if I'm gonna go no money down, I would want more. I would want 11%, I think, instead of 10, and it's of course conditional on you having good credit.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, me, Jack, it sounds like a pretty nice property. Why are you selling?
Well, I've had it for a little over 4 years, and there's some profit in it for me now, although if I sell it no money down, I won't see the profit right away. And I've done some depreciating of it, and it's time to move on to another property.
Jack, you know what I'd like to do? I'm going to be going out and seeing a couple of properties tomorrow. Are you planning on being home for the rest of the day?
Most of the day. I'll be home the next 2 or 3 hours anyway.
Yeah. Let me do this. Let me call you back within the next 2 hours and arrange for a time when I can go out and look at your property, and we can sit down and talk about a way in which we could structure this so it would be good for both of us.
Okay.
Good. Well, I sure do appreciate your time, and thanks so much.
Hey, Carleton. Good. Good to talk to you.
Well, that was a very interesting call. Obviously, a seller who is somewhat motivated. A couple of comments here. Number one, if we're able to buy that property no money down, even with a break-even cash flow where the rental income and the outgo is exactly the same, the tax benefits alone would be worth nearly $100 a month. Secondly, even though real estate brokers will sometimes appraise a property for a higher than market value just in order to get a listing, there still may be some equity we could pick up there. For example, the property may not be worth $78,000, but it may be worth $75,000. So there would be an opportunity for instant equity. But the third thing that appeals to me is the fact that with a first mortgage payment, a principal and interest of $450, a second mortgage payment of roughly $80, a third mortgage payment of roughly $90, we're talking about principal and interest payments of $620 a month. The tenant is paying $750 a month, so that would leave $130 a month for the other costs of ownership, namely management, maintenance, property taxes, and insurance. So it appears that there's an excellent likelihood for a positive cash flow from this property. This is definitely one that I'm going to look at, and I think it offers a lot of potential. Okay, let's go on and make another call. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, and rent to buy.
Hi, this is Janet. I'm looking forward to talking with you. Please leave your name and number after the beep. Thanks.
Seems like everyone in the world has an answering machine these days. Again, you would have left your name and the fact that you're interested in buying the property. Here's another one, rent to buy special, 1,500 square foot home, 3-bedroom, with added 1,500 feet of semi-finished area, low down payment, below appraisal. Notice I use the questions right out of my book. You can't be expected to remember everything you're going to ask the seller, and it's very convenient to be able to do that. We'll call that one back. This next property is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. Empty, ready for immediate possession. That's always an indication of seller flexibility. We'll sell on a contract. That's another indication. Let's call it. Yes, good morning. I'm calling about your property at 4931.
It's already sold.
Oh, it is. My goodness. Are you a broker or are you the owner?
No, I'm the owner. That was a little rehab property. It was a HUD repo, and I just turned it, and we sold that this weekend.
Well, congratulations. You do exactly the same thing I do. I'm a real estate investor, and I think that's marvelous you were able to sell it so quickly.
Yeah, well, wish I had about 3 more just like it. It just turned out to be a real good one. It was brick and just didn't need anything but cosmetics, and we painted the trim on the outside and in and out, and we're done.
Yeah, so you're able to do a couple of these a year then.
Yeah, I conceivably 4, but it's interesting. But,
Yeah,
I mean, because it took us 5 weeks in there.
Well, do you have the same policy I do, that unless you can make $10,000, you don't bother with them?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. I actually made a little more than that. I paid $30 for it, which was a deal too, see, because normally that's pretty low.
Yeah.
I think the market for us is going to get better because I think there are going to be more of these available all the time.
Well, I do too, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
and,
more people reneging on loans, so that the government's going to be sitting there with more properties, and I think that we'll be able to get a little better bargain. You agree?
I think so too. I agree with you.
Yeah,
And,
I think it's going to continue to happen.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Well, you've been a real pleasure to talk with, and congratulations on selling that property.
Thank you.
Take care.
To you later.
Bye-bye. What an interesting call. Even though the property wasn't there, it certainly reaffirms something that I feel very strongly about, and that is the fact that you can find rundown properties, and there are more in some areas than others, no question, but find rundown properties, put a few $1,000s in them, and flip them, and make $10,000 to $15,000. This lady made almost $15,000 in that property. A real nice profit, and she sold it in 1 week. I cover fixing up rundown properties in my book, how to go about evaluating them. There's a lot of money to be made on property that way. This one says rent to buy, clean, 3-bedroom aluminum ranch with garage. I would assume that would mean aluminum siding. Gives the address.
Hi, you have reached the Teeter Rental Hotline. We currently have one home available. This home is located at 5250. This is a larger 3-bedroom, 1-bath, aluminum sided. To see this property, you may pick up a key at Dick's Barber Shop at 34th and a $10 deposit is required to pick up the key and will be returned to you when you return the key. Or you may pick up a key at our office.
That's interesting. No one there, but they left a message on their answering machine saying that if the calling party wanted to view the property, the one we're calling on here, they should go either to a local barber shop and leave a $10 deposit and get the key, or they could stop by the office of the person who is either managing or owns it. This is one of the techniques that I teach in my own seminar, perhaps their students, and that is management need not be a hassle. You can get the help of other people, like in this case a local retailer, the barber shop, to help, and the property can almost show itself. This would certainly be worth calling back about. Even though they talked about it being for rent, the newspaper ad says rent to buy, so a lease option would definitely be possible here. If you have no cash and no credit, probably the very best way to buy a property creatively, no money down, is to focus on lease options. And because that particular situation probably fits most of you, I'm concentrating in this video on calling sellers whose properties are available. available under a lease option contract. Now, lease options will be spelled out in the newspaper, rent to buy or rent to own, or sometimes they will say lease option. And you will find these not only in the for rent section of the newspaper, but also in the for sale section. But just a reminder, even though your local newspaper may not carry any for rent ads or for sale ads that specifically say rent to buy or rent to own or lease option, that does not mean that any seller or any owner who's trying to rent their property would not be willing to rent it or sell it on a lease option possibility. So just keep that in mind as you study that section of my course. It's a very, very powerful way to buy property, no money down. You see, the great part about a lease option is that a portion of your lease payment every single month is going toward the purchase price. And the portion can range from as little as a third of the monthly payment up to the entire amount. And the nice thing about it is, as an investor, when you're making these monthly payments, the rent is really being paid by the tenant. So in effect, the tenant is not only buying the property for you, they're making the down payment for you. And that's the best of all worlds. Here's an interesting ad. Owner motivated, must sell. Gives the area, 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, den, laundry room. Sounds nice. 2-car garage. Ready to move in. Make offer. Might consider creative finance or would help with the down payment. Let's call.
Hello?
Yes, I'm calling about your ad in the newspaper. You start out, owner motivated, must sell.
Right.
Yes. By the way, my name is Carleton. May I ask your first name?
Yeah, it's Dan.
Stan?
Dan.
Dan. Sorry, Dan.
Sure.
Dan, interested in learning a little bit more about the house. I see it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Tell me a little bit about it. What do you know by chance the square footage of the house?
No, I don't really know the square footage. Let's see. Well, I don't know. It was my parents' house. No, I really don't know the square footage. That's a good question, though.
It was your parents' house, meaning that you bought it from your parents?
No, I inherited the house.
Huh. Dan, is there any existing financing on the property? What kind of mortgages are on the property right now, if any?
Right now, there's a small mortgage. It's an old one, the one they had put on it a long time ago. It's about $12,000.
Okay. You happen to know the interest rate and the payments on that?
Oh, no, it is small. That loan is probably 20 years old.
Have you thought about whether you might be willing to assist in the financing?
Well, I'd like to sell the house. What did you have in mind? I'm open to suggestions.
Well, Dan, by the way, I'm a real estate investor, and as you know, or I don't know whether you bought any investment property or not, but it sure makes it an awful lot easier to buy property without going to a bank or a savings and loan to borrow money. I'm not against that. I can do it if I have to, but so many times the owners are willing to assist in the financing by carrying back a mortgage or a second mortgage, and I wondered if you thought about that.
Well, I know it takes a long time to get a bank loan, and I really would like to close quickly if I could. The house has been, probably shouldn't even tell you this, but the house has been vacant for about 7 months, and I finally got things straightened out where I either want to sell it or rent it in the next month or two at the most, and I guess I'd be open to talking about that. Make me an offer.
Dan, let me ask you this. Are there any brothers or sisters that would be involved in making the decision about how to sell the property?
No.
Okay, so you're the one that I would be talking to.
That's right.
What price do you have? What are you asking for the property?
$79,500.
$79,500.
Yeah.
And so your equity, you think, is about $67,000, $68,000.
Yeah.
And how long have you had the property on the market?
Well, it's been on the market for at least 9 months, and you could say it was a little longer than that, but I didn't actively start running ads until a little bit more recent than that. But there's been a sign up, so it's been vacant for a while too.
Out of curiosity, it sounds like a nice property. Why are you selling? Why wouldn't you just go ahead and rent it out?
Well, I be perfectly honest with you, I have another ad in the paper right now. You probably even saw it. It's the same phone number where I'm considering renting it because there's a lot of equity in it, and it would just be positive income for me. So I'm considering that, but I may end up renting it if I can't get my price or can't move it quick. I would like to get somebody in there.
Have you had any responses to your ad?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've had a couple people. I put a rent rate in there, and I've had 2 people very interested. They're going to go by and look at it.
What rent are you asking for it?
$850.
$850.
Yeah.
Are there other properties in your neighborhood that are being rented right now?
Yeah, there's. That's how I came up with that number. I talked to 2 of the neighbors who know of 2 houses on the block that are for rent, and they're not as big as this, and they don't have the fenced yard, and they don't have the double driveway either. And it's those are renting for. There's one renting for $875, and there's one renting for $850. So I figure I'm coming in a little bit low. So it should rent fairly quickly. It probably could get more than that if you're we're an investor and maybe repainted it a little bit. I haven't done any work on the inside yet, but it's in decent shape.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a couple people who are interested in renting at that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I just started running the ad for rent this Sunday, so it's only been a couple days. I finally put an answering machine on there. We've been getting a lot of calls.
Let me ask you this. Have you thought about lease optioning your property where you would lease the property to me or to anyone for that matter and apply a portion of the rent toward the purchase price?
How much rent? How much would I be paying?
Well, for example, I'm just giving you this as an example. Perhaps you might rent the property out for $900 or $1,000 a month, get a little bit of a premium for doing that,
yeah,
and then apply maybe $500 a month toward the purchase price, or $600. And that may sound like a lot toward the purchase price, but on the other hand, as you know, when you sell a property, you always, or at least most people, are prepared to take a little bit less than their asking price. And if you're asking $79.5, if someone could offer you $79.5, your full asking price, and yet get a rent credit of, say, $500 or $600 a month toward the purchase price, that could work well for both parties. For you, you're getting a premium rent, and if anyone ever walks away, you get to keep all that money.
That's what I was going to ask you. If you don't then buy it, I don't have to give you back that rent.
That's correct. And on the other hand, after a couple, 3 years, the individual who is renting it from you would have a very nice down payment.
Yeah, that's... Well, like I said, I mean, I'd probably rather either rent it or sell it, but, I'm all ears.
All right, let me ask you this. When you ran your ad in the newspaper advertising your property for sale, you mentioned creative financing could help with a down payment. What exactly did you have in mind? You're asking $79.5 for the property. What terms are you looking for?
Yeah, well, what I had in mind, I talked it over with some people, and what I think I would do is, there's a mortgage on it of about $12,000, and that's assumable, but that's such a small amount. I would be willing to sell it for 30% down if a buyer gave me 30% down, and then I would take a mortgage. I would actually carry the mortgage at 12% interest, and I wouldn't charge them any points either, like they'd have to pay the bank.
In other words, if someone gave you $24,000 down, you would carry a $56,000 mortgage at 12%.
Right. Would you be interested in that?
Well, potentially I would, Dan, but as you're probably aware, interest rates today are pretty darn low, and if you go out and get a 30-year loan on a property, you can get it for, depending on whether you're owner-occupied, around 9.5%.
Well, I could be flexible on the interest rate a little bit.
Okay. What if I were to do something like this? What if a new loan were put on the property, maybe at even 50 or 60% of the value of the property? Roughly $80,000 times 60% would be $48,000. Instead of getting $24,000 cash down, you would get $48,000 cash. Take back a mortgage for the balance, a second mortgage for the balance of $32,000 roughly, and that would allow you to get a lot more cash in your pocket, and would allow me to buy the property with very little money down.
That sounds, where you'd get a new first mortgage?
Well, Dan, I don't know. Either I would get a new mortgage or we would go in together and get one. And it certainly would be a lot easier if both of us shared our credit. And you own the property, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Right.
That would be a possibility. Dan, I think there are a couple of thoughts here. Number one, either do what I just suggested, or number two, a lease option. I think what we need to do is I need to look at the property and then sit down and talk to you about it. One final question: if you rent the property, and I know you've got to do something on it. If you rent the property, for example, tomorrow, would you still be willing to sit down and talk to me about buying it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I ultimately would like to not own it. I'm considering moving south, and I'm sure I could still own it here. I do have some friends in the area, but I just as soon take the money and go and buy a new property.
Okay, Dan, let me do this. I've made a lot of notes here. I'm going to be, let me put a pencil to it, and let me get, are you in most of the time?
Best time is after 12 noon.
Best time is after 12 noon?
Yeah, like right now.
Okay. Let me call you, if not later this afternoon, I'll call you tomorrow, and we'll just make an arrangement to look at the property and sit down and do some talking.
Okay, what was your name again?
My name is Carleton.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good. Nice talking with you. I look forward to chatting with you later today or tomorrow.
Great.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
Oh, that was an interesting call. Obviously a motivated seller, and yet one that would appear not to need money because they're willing to rent or sell. Very flexible in terms of being open to different suggestions. My thought is twofold. First, by the seller joining me at a bank in getting that loan, that would really diminish the amount of credit that I would need. Maybe the seller, in this case, would even be willing to get a new loan on the property himself and then sell to me after he has that loan, taking back about a $32,000 mortgage for the balance. A comment here, and one thing that runs throughout my entire course, is that you need to find sellers who are going to be flexible on price or terms or sometimes both. But if you've got a seller who's pretty firm in their asking price, then negotiate on terms, and that's what we're doing here. I will definitely run a financial analysis on this and see which would be the best way to approach this seller, whether it's through a lease option, where I would get monthly credits toward the purchase price, or whether it would be through putting new financing on the property. The former, the first method, would be easier because it wouldn't involve any bank loan. The second one might be more practical from the standpoint of getting the seller the cash that he needs and allowing me to take title to the property. But that certainly is one that I'll follow up on. Before we move on, let's talk about how we actually make an offer. And by the way, you'll learn as you study my course that I believe very strongly in always being present when an offer is made. Even if I'm dealing with a real estate broker, I always put in the contract, a buyer reserves the right to a company broker to present offer. It's very important, I think, that I'm there because I can do a better job of presenting what I'm willing to do than another person can. Once you're sitting in front of a seller, there are three ways, basically, that you can approach that seller about buying their property. One would be through a formal written contract. And you're making an offer formally in writing. When they accept it, then it becomes binding, or they may choose to counteroffer. The second way to do it would be through a letter of intent, where you briefly write some notes down on paper about how you propose to buy the property. And while it's not binding on you or the seller for that matter, if they say to you, that sounds like a good way to go to me, get them to initial it, and it emotionally binds them to the offer. And the third way is just by making a verbal offer, where you sit down with the seller and you say, Mr. and Ms. Seller, here's what I'm thinking about doing with regard to your property, and you tell them verbally what you have in mind. It is probably the least time-consuming way to approach a seller about buying their property, and sometimes it's very effective because it can be done in an informal, friendly way. So those are the ways that I present offer, and which way I choose is going to be a function of my relationship with the seller, how I perceive the seller in terms of his personality or her personality, and finally, the ways that I'm going to use to buy the property. Okay, it's time for me to look at some properties, but let me briefly give you an idea of what you should be looking for as you're driving to a property yourself. Be aware of the location of the property relative to shopping areas, transportation, major highways, schools. And when you get to the neighborhood where the property is located, look to see how the property that you're looking at fits in with all other properties. Is it on the high end or low end in terms of appearance and in terms of cost? Remember, the curb appeal of a property is very important. And a future tenant or a future prospective buyer is going to be looking at that same property probably the way you're looking at it. Look for areas where cosmetic improvements could make a substantial difference in the curb appeal. It's possible to spend only a few $100s on paint and landscaping and maybe some elbow grease and frequently add literally thousands of dollars to the value of a property. So all of these exterior improvements can do a lot toward making that property more valuable. Just be sensitive to those things. I tried to videotape one of my conversations with a seller when I went out to look at their property, but it just didn't work. I mean, can you imagine trying to discuss a property with a seller? I mean, try to make a seller feel comfortable while a cameraman and a soundman are standing 6 feet away. It's impossible. It's definitely not the way to try to buy property. Okay, let's summarize what's happened over the last 4 days. I spent a little bit of time each of those days making calls to sellers, about 25 in total. I had a lot of good conversations, which you heard, several of which I'm going to follow up with. The one owned by Jack, the one owned by Dan, and I'll tell you what happened in just a moment. If you're going to do a multifamily property analysis, there's an excellent form in Chapter 7 of my book, as it's very complete, very thorough. But you know, analyzing a single-family home is not difficult. All you're doing is determining what the gross income is from rental, subtracting from it the expenses, insurance, taxes, maintenance, and if you're going to have someone else manage the property, you've got to build that figure in, subtract that out, and whatever is left is what you have to make your debt service payments, your first mortgage and your second mortgage payments. So analyzing a single-family home property is not difficult. Now, something you may not be aware of is that when you buy property, all of the mortgage payments, in fact, all of the costs of ownership are paid by the seller up to the date of close. So when you buy property, you're going to have 1 month before any payments are due. When you rent out a property, you're going to get paid 2 months rent in advance by a tenant, so that money is all available to you to use in the property if you choose. The first property that I visited was the one that was owned by Jack, and I believe I'm going to buy that property. You may recall that Jack was asking $69,900 and indicated a willingness to sell no money down, but said he would have to get a premium and ask $72,000 for the property. I did a cash flow analysis on the property, and I determined that after figuring what the taxes would be, and by the way, in the course, I teach you how to determine what taxes will be because they're always going to go up after you buy a property. And after doing a cash flow analysis, I determined that I would have $567 a month going out for the expenses and the first mortgage payment, and ultimately was able to agree with Jack to sell the property no money down for $71,000, with Jack taking back a $19,000 mortgage at 10% rather than the 11% that he was asking for. The bottom line was that if it closes as we've agreed, I will have a $47 a month positive cash flow. But you know, the property is really a lot better than that for this reason. First, by owning this property, which I bought no money down, my tax benefits alone are going to amount to about $500 per year. I have equity buildup of about $600 per year and a cash flow of $600 a year, a total of nearly $1,700, of which over $1,000 is spendable cash. And not only that, I bought a property that has $7,000 in equity that's free and clear that could be taken out and used to buy another property. And I explain in depth in my course how to do that. If this closes as planned, it's going to be a very profitable transaction. The second property I looked at was the one that was owned by Dan, and recall that he had inherited that property, was asking $79,500 for it, and had also run a second ad in the paper to rent it for $850 a month. I decided it would be worthwhile to follow up on that property and make an offer to Dan, which I did. Incidentally, the property did rent for $850 a month, and after doing an analysis, I determined that I could buy that property no money down and still have a positive cash flow. The offer that I made to Dan was that he would go out and put a new 60% of value assumable mortgage on the property in the amount of $48,000. And I, in turn, once that had been done, would come in, buy the property, assume that mortgage, and give Dan a note and mortgage for the balance. Dan is still thinking about that, and I think may end up accepting my offer. It certainly would be a win-win situation because he would be out from under the ownership of the property, which he wanted. Number two, he would put the difference between the $48,000 cash and the $12,000 existing mortgage. He would put that $36,000 cash in his pocket. I'd buy the property, no money down. It would carry itself. It would be win-win for both parties. Most of my calls over the last 4 days have been oriented toward sellers who I thought would sell no money down. And I think it's pretty easy for you to see that if you happen to have a little bit of money and you can afford to spend $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 for a down payment or to cover some of the closing costs of the property, it's going to open up the market and make that many more homes and properties available to you. You don't need cash to buy property, but if you have a little bit of cash, it's possible to buy that many more. Now, don't be intimidated. While all of this is very easy for me, you're probably wondering if you can do it. No, you can't after just watching me make a handful of calls. But that's why I developed this course.
The course makes it so plain and simple. It's very easy to follow. It gives you all you need to know in basic language. I had no real estate knowledge at all.
They are step-by-step detailed. You can't go wrong. If you follow the course, you follow the video and the tapes, you cannot go wrong. You've got everything in that course that you need to be a full-time investor and make a lot of money in it.
It's great. I'm loving every bit of it too. I'm energetic. I'm full of just life, and if you gave it back to me with the course, because I wouldn't be this, feeling this good about life again.
And again, I'd like to congratulate every one of you for owning my course. It's a major step you've taken. But I want to warn you about something. I've learned from many of my students that after they complete the course, they become very excited about the prospects of achieving financial independence by using these techniques. Then they go out and they talk to their neighbors and their relatives and their friends, and they're told that won't work. It's probably illegal. When people say that, you see, they don't mean to hurt you. You make them feel uncomfortable because you're trying to do something to improve your life. When they tell you that, that's just misery-loving company. And you're making those people feel very guilty. There's only one person that can do something about you and your family's financial situation, and that's you. And the only way you can do something to change is to have a plan. Beginning in Chapter 1, I show you exactly how to develop a specific, customized plan just for you that accomplishes your own individual goals. I feel very strongly when I say that this course will help you accomplish your financial goals. You see, billions of dollars of profit are going to be made in real estate over the next few years, and the real estate doesn't care who makes that profit. You may be a sophisticated investor right now, or you may be a novice. But either way, you're going to come away from my course with something great. The principles and techniques you're going to learn are the ones that are being used by thousands of my students right now from coast to coast every day. I've learned from the letters that they send me that they're also using the techniques to buy businesses or to expand businesses that they already own. These techniques are fresh, they're up to date for this economy and in light of the current tax laws and the current interest rates. They work for me and they'll work for you. Okay, let's take a quick look at the system that really holds the secret to your future success. Perhaps the first tape you should listen to is the free confidential conversations tape I've included. It's a How I Did It discussion between me and one of my students, Tom Hudson, who is now a millionaire from this system. Tom, we met about a year ago in Florida when we were filming for the show, and what's happened to your net worth?
Our net worth has gone to over $1 million now.
Another student with $1 million net worth. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Our spendable income is over $10,000 a month. We're really excited.
$20,000 a year and over $1 million net worth.
I didn't think it would be possible for me to ever become a millionaire. Well, we owe it all to you.
I've chosen Tom to share his story from amongst thousands of other successes because Tom's story represents a fairly typical starting point for most people. Now, incidentally, if you find this tape helpful, you can obtain other tapes just like it from the Professional Education Institute. Once you've listened to that tape, how you proceed next depends on you. Now, here's how it's laid out. The cornerstone of my entire system is your step-by-step manual, your workbook. The audio tapes are a recording of the latest live seminar I presented, which go page by page through the manual. But the manual is the foundation of the system. I recommend you go through the course a couple of times because you always pick up something new each time you listen. Now, having said that, let's look at the foundation of your system, your course manual. You see, the first several pages consist of a checklist which walks you step by step through the course, tells you how to approach your study of my whole system. Then you'll see the table of contents. It's detailed enough so that if you wish to review a particular area, you can quickly locate the chapter and page number. In the rear of the manual, I have a detailed subject index, so if, for example, you want to review REOs, that's real estate owned by banks, you look under the R's and you'll see the places in the manual where REOs are discussed. This detailed subject index should be particularly helpful to you. Now, back at the beginning, after the table of contents, you'll find my preface and then the introduction. The introduction goes into detail about the course and all the accompanying supplements. Read this to get a good overview of how the course comes together, how each part of the course supports the whole, how they go together to give you the best strategy that's available for making money in real estate. You see, what I've tried to do is not only to provide you with a comprehensive course to creatively buy a home to live in and/or meet your financial goals, but also to provide you with a permanent reference source for all areas relating to real estate investing, just like an encyclopedia for your library. Now, in Chapter 1, Laying the Foundation for Your Financial Success, as I mentioned earlier, you will, with my help, develop your own plan that will take you from where you are right now to the accomplishments of your financial goals. Chapter 2, Creating Wealth Out of Thin Air, graphically demonstrates why your decision to choose real estate as your wealth vehicle is the best decision in the world. In Chapter 3, I teach you how to build great credit. While I'll tell you now that you don't need credit to buy real estate, having good credit can make it easier. Now, don't be alarmed if you don't have credit now, or even if your credit is terrible, because when I first started investing, I had no credit, and yet I was able to borrow over $1 million during my first 18 months as an investor. I did it with no income verification, no credit checks, and no employment verification. Even with bad credit or bankruptcies in their past, many of my students have become incredibly successful real estate investors.
3 years ago, before we moved up north, we had filed a bankruptcy, okay? And we had no credit whatsoever. We asked some people in our church to help us get a mobile home finance because that's all we could afford. And with the help of your course is how we got our credit established again. This is a check for $1,636 that we got at the time of the closing of our 4-unit rental property.
We bought,
We got
absolutely no money down, nothing. To go from bankruptcy to what we are now is just amazing. Even our kids are like, can't believe Mom and Dad are doing these things.
In Chapter 4, I've condensed over 25 years of establishing myself as a seasoned real estate investor into a number of specific strategies. Strategies that you can implement and benefit from in a matter of weeks. Chapters 5 and 6 are making the right property choices and developing knowledge of the local marketplace. And these go hand in hand and are very important because one of the most frequent mistakes made by novices who haven't studied my course is to buy the wrong kinds of property or to buy properties in the wrong neighborhoods. You won't make these mistakes. In Chapter 7, Nothing Down Deals Over the Telephone, Pre-Qualifying the Seller and the Property, goes into much greater detail on some of the terrific time savers we've already discussed in this video. On Chapter 8 of the tapes, you'll listen to more actual recorded phone calls of me conducting no money down negotiations with sellers. In your manual, I've provided a transcription of those calls for your convenience. Now pay close attention to Chapter 9, Determining the Value of an Income Property, because you can't afford to overpay for a property even if you buy it creatively, no money down. There are easy-to-follow forms in there to make sure you don't overpay. Chapter 10, How to Think and Act Creatively, will prepare your mindset to become a creative problem solver, because that is what we are essentially doing when we're dealing with flexible sellers to buy their properties. Chapters 11, 12, and 13 are the heart of my course. There you'll find the no down payment techniques, and you'll learn almost 30 ways to make offers on homes and investment properties at prices and terms you never dreamed possible. And remember, if you're trying to sell a property, every one of these techniques can be turned around 180 degrees to help you sell a property creatively. Chapter 13 also identifies government programs you can use to profit even more. Chapter 14 shows you how to actually take cash out at the closing when you buy property. In Chapter 15, how would you like to make thousands of dollars on property you don't even own and not go to jail? I'm talking about options. Options are not only very legal, but they're very profitable as well. This is a chapter that will be of particularly interest to you if you have absolutely no credit or cash right now. Chapter 16 is my negotiating chapter where I teach you win-win negotiating skills. This section can help you in all aspects of your life. Chapter 17 identifies all the professional people you'll be dealing with regularly and how to find the good ones. It teaches you how you'll be building your team of experts to put you on a fast track. Chapter 18 goes into detail on actually making an offer. It literally walks you through the offer form and explains every paragraph simply and in layman's terms. Chapters 19 and 20 show you how to make big profits from foreclosures and other distressed properties. Incredible opportunities. Then how to hang on to your profits at tax time. More on that later. In Chapter 21, you'll see that property management does not have to be a hassle. And when you do it right, it can even be fun. In Chapter 22, you'll learn about how to get in on a ground floor opportunity that will be literally exploding in this country in the coming years, mobile homes. Chapter 23 takes you through the basics of using partners to get started, particularly important if you have no money right now or if you're trying to get ahead quickly by buying larger properties. And last, Chapter 24, what to do tomorrow morning. I'm not going to fill you up with a lot of important information and not tell you how to use it. In this chapter, I go into detail, and I mean great detail, on what you should do for each of the first 3 months after you complete this course. And if you follow this guideline, before the end of that 3 months, you will be well on your way to accomplishing those goals you set in Chapter 1. Whether it's a new home or investing for profit. Now, before we leave the main part of the course, I want you to take out your COG chart. COG is short for Creative Options Grid, and it's so easy to use. And it's important, too, because it'll show you at a glance all of the techniques that will work in a given situation. You just find the situation of the property, the buyer, and the seller on the left-hand side, and then you read across from left to right, and you'll find the 1 or 2 or 8 or 10 techniques that are going to work best for you in those situations. The COG chart is a powerful tool that you should take with you anytime you go out to look for property. I'm going to take just a minute or two to discuss the additional materials included with the course. And this includes your legal forms portfolio and contains some of the most useful forms you'll need for your investing. Some are standard forms, others are forms that I've revised, developed, and used for over 25 years. They're time-tested and, frankly, they represent an investment of thousands of dollars on my part, but they're yours to make copies of for your own personal use. Among all the legal forms that I've provided, the real estate sales contract is probably the most powerful. It's legal, it's ethical, and it's got dozens of important protections built in to protect you, the buyer. It's literally the result of my experience buying hundreds of properties. I can tell you something for sure. You're going to be a different person after you finish my course and after you take the last tape out of your recorder. You're going to be a different person because you'll be armed with all the tools you need to achieve your goals. And you're going to know not only what you need to do, but precisely how to do it. If you conscientiously apply the techniques that I teach, you can become wealthy. You have my word on it. Okay, it's time to start changing your life. Put the first tape in and let's get started. What is it that you like most about rental property?
The tenants are living there, and I'm offering them a good service, but in return, they're paying me they're giving me a monthly income, and they're actually paying for the property itself. You can buy a $50,000 piece of property for no money, and your tenants will pay for that for you.
If I can't get up in the morning, my rent still come in. If I get sick, my rent still come in. Where my daily job, I don't go in, I don't make an income.
I think real estate investing helps people to realize that they can do it on their own. They feel worth something, and that alone, no matter what income you have or don't have, is what whole life is about.
I can't tell you what a huge weight came right off of my shoulders the minute I reached the point where I knew I could pay my bills and I didn't have to get up and go to work.
A lot of people are worried about Social Security right now and health care. I don't have to worry about this anymore. I'm more secure in my life right now at 56 years old than I've ever been in my life. I would never have to go back to work in the barbershop again the rest of my life.
It is well worth the commitment, the closeness you get in your family. It pulls them together. It's something that you have to show for all your efforts. You know, your regular job, you're working for somebody else, always. And that's never going to change. With real estate, you're working for yourselves and your future, and every purchase you make is a step on that ladder to your success. It really works.
Controlling my destiny or our destiny is one of the most powerful feelings that anyone could imagine. It is a freedom like you couldn't believe.
Stay tuned for an additional message from Carleton Sheets.
The no down payment real estate investment course that you now own is the most complete and up-to-date available. It's everything you need to get started. In fact, it's everything you'll ever need to make you financially independent if that's your goal. But occasionally I hear from some of my ambitious students that they'd like to learn more about a particular aspect of real estate investing. In response to this demand, I developed what I call my Investor Success Series. It includes 3 specialized courses that will open up even more doors of opportunity for you. Volume 1 of the Investor Success Series is the painless guide to profitable property management. Management is the one thing that I think keeps many people from getting into real estate investing. And that's really a shame because I've been an investor for over 25 years, and trust me, managing property has not ruined my life. In fact, it's a tremendous profit center. I've learned that problems with property management are simply caused by a lack of education. They're not investment problems, they're knowledge problems. And that's the whole purpose of this course, to train you, to educate you, to make management easy, and to make it fun. This course will give you the practical street smarts of management. What to do before you buy property, how to attract and select tenants, record keeping, and how to manage specialized properties like rooming houses and vacation properties and mobile homes. And you'll learn a special technique that I use to get rid of bad tenants without having to go through all the legal hassles. This 6-tape course contains over 2,000 specific ideas, from how to raise rents to lowering your expenses. Each idea will both increase your cash flow and increase the value of your property at the same time. And the comprehensive manual includes every form you'll ever need to use in managing property for yourself or others. Course number 2 is Cashing In on Foreclosures and Distressed Properties, a step-by-step formula. Now, many of you know that foreclosures and distressed properties represent the greatest single source of quick real estate profits. For a variety of reasons, largely related to the economy, distressed properties are available in greater numbers than ever before. This course shows you how to take advantage of them. This is where the opportunity for really big returns is today. In this course, you'll learn how to quickly find, analyze, and deal with owners of properties that are about to go into foreclosure. Why, if you don't know the system, you can get burned at foreclosure auctions. How to buy REO bargains from banks with little or no money down. 16 government sources for foreclosed properties and how to work with each one. How to generate $30,000 to $40,000 per year extra part-time income doing rehabs. How to quickly rehab properties without a building permit to maximize profit, and do it with little or no cash out of pocket. And how abandoned properties can offer big profit potential for a savvy investor. This course includes 6 cassettes and a step-by-step manual, which is full of the sample forms and letters that you'll find to be priceless in working this program. Volume 3 of the Investor Success Series is Creating Quick Wealth with Partners. Now, this great course details one of the principal methods that I have used to acquire larger properties, and it's a way to get ownership of property by using your knowledge and other people's cash. I don't know how many times investors and would-be investors have said to me, I'm missing a lot of good buys because I don't have enough cash, or I feel like I can make a lot more money if I could control more or larger properties. And then I hear, how do I coordinate buying properties and bringing in partners? Or how do I find partners and sell them on the idea of investing? What legal ownership do I use? Well, that's why I created this course. It's a practical guide for forming partnerships to buy real estate and make a lot of money for you and your partners doing it. In this course, you're going to learn how to find partners and how to sell them on the idea of investing with you, and how to select the best type of property to be purchased by partnerships, how to choose the right ownership entity, how you can earn $5,000, $10,000, even $50,000 cash up front when you put together a partnership to acquire property, how state securities laws can affect partnership investing, and how to make a large monthly income managing a partnership property, and how to develop a sizable income through equity sharing. This expanded home study course manual and accompanying 6 audio cassettes contains sample forms for almost every legal entity that you'd create in buying property. I'm proud to say that my course on real estate partnerships is the definitive work for small real estate investors like us, and the only one of its kind available anywhere. Now, each of these courses normally sells for $159.95. Now, here's where I'd like to offer you a tremendous opportunity. Because you've already invested in my home study course, I'm going to make any of them available to you at a 50% savings. So now you can own any one of these courses for only $79.95. But it gets better. Before you decide, it's really important to me, and I think even more important to you, that you own the entire Investor Success Series. So I went to my publishers, the Professional Education Institute, and persuaded them to do something that they've never done before. They agreed to make an incredible price reduction on a limited time basis, and here it is. They have agreed to make available the entire 3-course library at publisher's cost. Now the entire library, which ordinarily has a retail price of $480, can be yours for just $97.80. You heard right, $97.80. So now you can have a package worth over $480, all for just $97.80 plus shipping and handling. This offer is only available under the following conditions. First, you must purchase within 30 days of receiving your home study course, and we have that date on our computer records. As I said earlier, it's only available if you've already purchased my home study course. Limit 1 library set per customer, please. Now, normally I don't like to get involved in discounting my courses because they contain literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of development time. And they contain over a quarter of a century of my experience as a real estate investor. And most importantly, I know the tremendous results they can have for you. But on the other hand, I also know that if they're going to do anyone any good, they've got to be put to use. So now you have every reason to begin. The courses carry the same money-back guarantee as all of my courses, and that is, if you're not happy with them for any reason, return them within 30 days for a full refund of the purchase price. And don't forget, just like my home study course, the Investor Success Series may be tax deductible. If you're a real estate investor, write them off your income taxes. Let the government help you. Call the 800 number for the Institute and let them know that you want the Investor Success Library. They'll get it out to you immediately. Don't delay. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. You'll be glad you made the call. And believe me, your bank account will thank you too.